15 minutes.
Okay, this is being passed.
The way she just said.
Good evening and welcome to the Monomoy Regional School Committee. I'm going to call the meeting to order for Thursday, November 21st at 6:30. And our first order of business is approval of minutes from November 7th. Could I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Joe?
Being unable to watch the entire episode on cable, I am reluctantly forced today to abstain from a vote.
Okay.
That had to do with a technical glitch, as far as I know. So I made a good faith effort to watch everything.
Thank you, Joe. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? With one abstention. All right, thank you. Now from our student representative, Ms. Jamie Buffington. Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. My fellow students and I have been extremely busy, so I'm going to jump right into my report. On October 23rd, National Honor Society inducted their new members. This group is dedicated to service and to spreading art education throughout our community. From October 27th to October 30th, the New England Association for Schools and Colleges, or NEASC for short, visited our school. The National Honor Society students dedicated a Sunday afternoon to attend a welcoming ceremony for NEASC, serving as guides and giving their thoughts on our school. The culinary class even baked an array of delicious food for all of the guests to snack on. And NEASC shadowed a few of our students during the day and interviewed several of us, asking what we loved about Monomoy and what we might like to see improved upon. For instance, many students raved about the great opportunities presented by our Jossum Hour, but expressed a desire for some new clubs, such as our debate team. Overall, the students believe the NEASC visit went extremely well, and we look forward to hearing the report. And in the meantime, Mr. Houston's U.S. History class got to enjoy some hands-on history. The American Battlefield Trust's traveling trunk provided them with a collection of uniforms, civilian clothes, documents, flags, currency photos, and other Civil War era materials. And they were able to share and examine these very cool items as a final unit review before their test. As October closed, Monomoy sports teams had some great games. Field hockey beat Sturgis 9-0 in their last regular season game, with goals scored by Caroline DiGiovanni, Carly Dimmick, Allison Barrett, Holly Evans, and Sarah Babb. And boys soccer beat Falmouth Academy 3-0 with goals by A.J. Williams, Sean Gould, and Troy Olson. And during their senior night, boys soccer also won against St. John Paul, putting them in the playoffs. And girls soccer faced Falmouth Academy, winning 5-0 with goals scored by Kiki Bijou-Cronin and Kelsey Olson. And girls soccer also tied St. John Paul 3-3. And cross country participated in an all-state meet that did not count towards their regular season. In the 3.1 mile run out of 268 runners, Ryder Robbins came in second, Stephen Young came in seventh, and Margot Derry came in 59th, and Danny Street came in 138th. And in the 2 mile race, Gareth Voss came in 18th out of 169, Courtney Derry followed in 25th, and Rihanna Voss came in 30th. And October 25th, boys soccer tied a match against DY, giving them the point they needed to qualify for South Sectionals. And finally, football sadly lost to Sandwich 32 with a touchdown from junior Tyler Potter. And these athletes were kept extremely busy on and off the field. Maggie Dever, a junior on the varsity soccer team, collaborated with the Chatham Orpheum Theater in filming an episode of a series where she interviewed local artist of the month, Chelsea Starris. In Sanskrit, Monomoy's Creative Writing Club visited Chatham Elementary School, where they read Halloween stories that they wrote and illustrated by themselves. On Tuesday, November 12th, AP Gov students attended the annual community breakfast at Waukwauset. They listened to speakers discussing regional workforce retention and development, the job market, and civic engagement. The keynote speaker was Rosalind Acosta, Massachusetts Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development, and Senator Julian Cyr was also in attendance. And on that day, senior Julie Slade and myself gave a presentation on the dangers of juuling and vaping at Mass Higher Cape and Islands Workforce Board's annual Leadership Academy at DY High School. We also worked with a group of students to create an idea or a hashtag or a slogan to encourage their peers to stay away from this dangerous trend. And taking it back to our great sports teams, field hockey beat Nantucket 3-0, but lost on their first round of playoffs to Holliston 3-2 in a hard-fought game. And cross country participated in a meet with girls coming in 3rd overall and boys finishing in 4th. And unfortunately, boys and girls soccer both lost to Nauset. But boys soccer went on to beat Bourne and advanced to the next round of playoffs, but ended up losing to Cohasset 6-2. On November 14th, Sarah Babb, Jenna Greco, Caitlin Lyons, Julie Slade, Miss Ginnity, and Miss Police attended the Enterprising Women Conference, a women's leadership event. They listened to guest speakers and participated in a Q&A panel of female entrepreneurs. These girls are some of our best and brightest, and I have no doubt that they will be in positions of leadership throughout their entire lives. And that same night, Monomoy hosted the Senior Citizen Thanksgiving dinner, where Miss Freitas and her culinary students once again cooked another delicious meal, and students volunteered to serve. Senior George Spall also made the night extra special by offering a piano accompaniment throughout the dinner. And on that same night, the MRHS Theater Company opened their show Done to Death. It had an amazing set and wonderful actors. Their show was a great success and ran Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. And the MRHS Theater Company has more exciting news. They have officially announced that they will be putting on Les Miserables as their winter musical. I will be sure to give you more information as soon as it comes out. And students in the 8th grade Silver team participated in this year's Young Writers Essay Contest, where they had to complete mini sagas in 100 words or less in response to mission contamination. 41 students were selected for publication in this year's book, and each will be eligible for first place. And the 8th grade also had an outer space themed dance with balloons glowing as planets, rocket ships, and great music. From the pictures I saw, it looked like they had a fun time. And Sanskrit also traveled to New York City for a weekend trip. This trip consisted of writing, photography, visiting literary sites, and reflecting. And just last week, senior Molly Charest signed her national letter of intent to play softball at Division I Manhattan College. Her friends, family, and coaches were all able to see this momentous occasion and wish Molly the best in her softball career. Monomoy also had some students competing in annual Lions speech contest. Caitlin Garman, Asa Say Obbins, and Jenna Beebe took first, second, and third respectively after sharing powerful speeches about their thoughts on heroism. And as the first quarter to our school years closed, the fall sports season did as well. Football beat Atlantis Charter 33-13 with touchdowns from seniors Elijah Beasley, Noah Concordia, and Rory Carpenter, and junior Tyler Potter as well. These boys have just one game left of the season, which is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And boys soccer team was also awarded for sportsmanship throughout the season. This was voted on by our local refs. And field hockey has also received a sportsmanship award from the MIAA for the way they conducted themselves throughout their remarkable season. Our players are definitely deserving of these great accolades, as I believe they accurately reflect on who our Monomoy's players truly are. And students were also recently rewarded for high academic achievements. At yesterday's Breakfast of Excellence, juniors were given awards based off impressive MCAS scores. Some seniors were recipients of the Abigail's Adams Scholarship if they received high MCAS scores their sophomore year. And AP scholars, kids who took at least 3 tests or scored a 3 or more, were also given special recognition. And just today, some students in AP Gov and the Kennedy Years classes traveled to Boston to visit Kennedy's Presidential Library. We had the opportunity to dissect Kennedy's moving rhetoric, learn about pivotal moments in U.S. history, such as the Cuban Missile Crisis, and see personal artifacts of JFK and the First Lady. This field trip was one of my personal favorites because I'm so fascinated by this country's history, especially how our nation's dynamic shifted during this critical time. Although we have a short school break coming up, I have no doubt that Monomoy students will be continuing to keep busy. I will most definitely have another jam-packed report for you next month. I hope you all have a lovely night and a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Wow. Any comments, questions? Wow. Would anybody from the public like to speak? You have 5 minutes. All right, no one? Seeing no one, we're going to move to recognitions. Dr. Carpenter?
In terms of recognitions, we'd like to thank the Considine family for their donation of $25 for the Monomoy Regional Middle School Anglers Club. Big congratulations to Monomoy Regional Middle School coach and physical education teacher Kathy Andrews, who was recently inducted into the New Agenda Northeast Hall of Fame, recognizing women who have helped advance the role of women in sports in the states of Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont. And then special thanks to the management staff of Chatham Bars Inn, who hosted the annual Thanksgiving lunch for the children at Chatham Elementary School. It was neat to go there and just see the children sing for their meals, and just to see that tradition continue. Many different turnovers of management have happened at CBI, and yet that still persists, and it's just a wonderful annual celebration. And lastly, yesterday we celebrated the Education Support Professionals Day, and really greatly appreciate the support staff that we have here. I went around taking a couple pictures with cafeteria workers and custodians and IT workers and our instructional assistants and some of our administrative assistants, and was thanking them for the great work that they do here behind the scenes to keep Monomoy running smoothly.
Wonderful. Any comments, questions? All right, moving into the next section of our agenda, reports and discussions. Providence field trip proposal. Is anyone here this evening? Oh, hello.
Hello. Emily Jutris, Oak Street Academy. I am hoping to gain permission to take my students on a field trip to Providence on December 19th for a field trip to Trinity Rep to see the play Christmas Carol, as well as go to the Providence Place Mall as a culminating activity to a budgeting unit we've been working on. All the students in our program are required to either get an internship or acquire employment. All of my students this year have gotten paid jobs and have been doing pretty well, and that's been part of the budgeting activity and thinking about Christmas. So we wanted to give them time to spend their budget and to make those tough decisions before Christmas. Aside from that, we are working on the unit in humanities, why government. Within that, we're looking at your role as a citizen, particularly around paying taxes and what happens with taxes and why they're important. We're looking at things like health insurance and wealth distribution in America, and how moral values contribute to government, and why understanding others and others' values contributes to our government in America. So all of those things partly are seen in the play by Charles Dickens, and so that's one of the fictions that we're using in our humanities unit to look at that and to talk about whether or not morals and values have changed over time, or what people view as their right or moral obligation, I should say, in society versus their rights to their community. So that's our field trip in a nutshell. So we'll be leaving here at 1:30 p.m., or that's the hope time. Play starts at 7:30. We anticipate it being over between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, and our return time would be between 11 and 11:30. So it'll be a late night, but I think worth it.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Yes.
What day? When?
December 19th. It's a Thursday.
Anything else? And just for confirmation, Emily, it's the alternative learning program? And
Yes, ma'am.
how many students?
I'll
are you
have
taking?
5 students
So
on
5
field trip,
students.
and myself and one other chaperone.
Okay, so 5 students, 2 chaperones. Okay. Any other comments? And it says potential vote, so I don't know. Does everybody
I make a motion to approve the Oak Street Academy Christmas Carol field trip.
Second that.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Anyone opposed? All right, you're
Have
good.
fun.
Enjoy, have fun. Thank you. Moving to the next item on the agenda, the Model UN trip to Boston. Looks like it's scheduled for February 2020. Oh, hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kira Ferris, and I'm the president of Monomoy's new Model UN team. Model UN centers around running model simulations of United dealings and learning about world events. We encourage our students to learn about current issues going on in the world and how different governments get together to solve these issues. We're a brand new club, but we're growing relatively quickly, and we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to our plans for the year. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julia Callisto, and I'm the secretary for Model UN here at Monomoy. And Model UN will allow people to use many skills, including students, such as networking with others, so communicating with other students when we go to conferences and in the club itself, and 21st century skills such as historical thinking, cooperation, leadership, critical thinking, and problem solving. We believe this club will allow students to develop these skills furthermore. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Courtney Kelly. I'm the historian of the Model United Nations Club. There is a Model UN conference at MIT in Boston this February from the 7th to the 9th. It's a 3-day overnight event where we are assigned a real-world issue to resolve in the perspective of an assigned country. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alice Murphy, and I'm the treasurer of Model United Nations Club. We are dedicated and committed to reaching our goal of $2,626 for this conference. We have already raised $827 of our goal through 2 bake sales in one day. And we are on our way and have planned upcoming fundraisers to reach the rest of our goal.
Hello, my name is Andrew Davik, and I'm the head delegate of Monomoy Model United Nations. Learning to simulate, discuss, and debate global issues and current events is important. This is important because it urges us to learn what is going on in the world around us. MUN has led high schoolers to consider careers in that field. For example, because of this club, I am starting to consider majoring in political science or civil affairs after high school. Thank you. Now Ms. Evans will answer any questions.
Hi, my name is Diana Evans. I'm the advisor of Model UN, and I'm here to answer any of your questions. Thank you so much for having us.
Wonderful, thank you. Questions, comments? I'll just say I'm very familiar with the program and really happy to see this.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
Yes. And it looks like, any comments, anything? And it looks like it's on our agenda for a potential vote. So, does everybody want to take a minute just to review what you have in front of you? And would you like to put it forward for a vote tonight?
Right.
Yes.
The cost per student is $70, and that's with all the fundraising, the anticipated fundraising to cover all the additional.
So we are focusing on covering hotel rooms first and foremost. And then if we raise an extra $1,400, then the $70 will be reimbursed to the students.
Awesome.
Anybody else? My only other question for myself, so 20 students and 1 chaperone, so that,
We will bring another chaperone.
Okay.
Yep, and our club is actually growing so rapidly, we might bump the number up to 30 students, and we'll have 3 chaperones.
okay, thank you for that.
Of course.
Anything else? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I would move that we approve the newly created school Model UN trip to Boston, February 7th through the 9th.
Second.
Is that 219 or
2020.
220? Yeah, I'm still clicking, it's amazing.
No, thank you for that. All right, so we have a motion on the floor with a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, congratulations, it's been approved.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
wonderful time.
Have fun.
All right, moving on to item number 3, which is the Harwich Elementary School Playground Fundraising Committee.
Hi, I'm Megan Smith, live in Harwich, and I'm a teacher at Harwich Elementary, kindergarten assistant at Harwich Elementary. And it was suggested that I just come before the committee to give you all the heads up that a formal fundraising committee has been formed to raise money for the replacement playground behind Harwich Elementary. I'm trying not to call it the new Harwich Elementary playground because it really is a community playground. And we want to make sure that we have as much community involvement as possible. So we are referring to it as the Harwich Community Playground, which coincidentally is located behind HES. Since it's behind HES, that falls under your domain somewhat. So that's why we wanted to put it on your radar. We will be doing fundraising, and information will be going out through some school avenues at times. So we just wanted to make you guys aware that it's out there. We do have a EIN number already, and we have filed our tax exempt paperwork so that we can really get rolling on the fundraising.
Wonderful.
So I'm not sure what information you want, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions? Comments? Very good to hear.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item. It looks like it's FY21 budget discussion. Superintendent Carpenter.
I really don't have much to discuss, other than we are supposed to be meeting as a finance subcommittee next Tuesday, and I think it might be a need for a discussion at the table as to when we start the meeting.
Hold on.
I think it's, it's currently scheduled for 5 o'clock on the calendar from 5 to 6. Does that give it enough time?
I think the 2-hour time frame is probably going.
2 hours?
I think an hour may be tight.
Okay.
If I think of the first conversations in past years.
This one's not gonna be easier?
But I think we can try for the hour, but I think there was a request to potentially have it start earlier, so that people, if they have Thanksgiving travel that they need to have, can get out of Dodge earlier.
Okay. So,
I have a football game that I have to be around for Wednesday, so I will not be
you're not
traveling
traveling,
until
okay.
Wednesday night.
So, we've got 3 members here of the subcommittee. I think we're missing 1. So is it something we can decide here? I mean, I would propose 4 o'clock, but.
4 is tight
Okay.
for me. Just
4:30?
4:30 would be ideal
Okay.
in my
Fine
world.
with me.
All right, so 4:30. So do we
Okay.
need to change, I guess?
We can just get it
the
reposted.
posting?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that will happen on 4:30, at 4:30 on Tuesday, which I think is the 26th, the Finance Subcommittee. All right, anything else along those lines?
And that's it.
All right, we are going to move now to the Comcast funding for the Monomoy Regional High School television studio.
Hi, Katie Isernio, Business Manager. The Comcast funds are really, it's called PEG, which is Public Educational Governmental Access Channels, that the towns each have contracts with Comcast and receive funding for, to support Channel 22 and Channel 18. And a part of that funding is to be used for educational purposes. And when we were doing the building project, the 2 towns so graciously contributed funds to the TV studio for some of the cameras and, essential pieces of equipment. Well, it's time now to upgrade and improve and that. So I've asked Stephen Cass and Jim Birchfield to come to speak with you more directly about it. So what the process will be is, this is really informational. I don't think it's a vote necessarily required. That then we will be submitting a request to both of the towns. And this is one time that the funding is split 50-50. So we'll be asking them for these funds, which will be a part of their FY21 budget presentations and discussions. But we wanted to get out in front of it and sent along as early as possible. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about the process. Okay, so I'll just have Jim and Stephen come and speak to, or Stephen alone, but I speak to it, okay. And, excuse me, and in your packets is the narrative and the budget that we are going to be sending to the two towns, Chatham and Howard.
Katie?
Yes.
I'm sorry. You might just clarify that this is not gonna be a part of our budget. This is coming out of the towns.
Right, and it's funding, it's monies that are set in a separate account in each of the towns, and it supports their community access channels as well as ours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
So actually the money comes out of the cable franchise fees that you guys pay if you have Xfinity.
Oh, so we
that's,
pay anyway.
so. Is there any questions that I can answer about any of this?
Quick one, Steve.
Yeah.
The equipment that would be replaced.
Yeah.
Do we return that to somebody, or do we create a spot in the school where?
So some of the equipment, like the studio cameras, we'll use when we do like extracurricular events, like sporting events. So they'll get use out of that. The other equipment, it's not Microsoft, which it runs on, isn't supporting it anymore. So it's kind of outdated. So we won't be able to use it. Maybe we can auction it off and sell the equipment.
Okay, good, thanks.
Anything else?
I'm just here for moral.
Yes. Doing a great job. Oh, yeah, oh, I'm sorry. So the students, if you're not familiar, they produce the morning announcements that go on our cable access channel and that air throughout the school in the morning. It's all student run. They run the equipment, they're anchors, weather people, so they get real life experiences. So I facilitate, how to teach them how to use the equipment. Once they've learned, I step back and then it's all theirs. Right now, the school committee meeting, they run the equipment back there to broadcast this to Channel 22 and onto YouTube. I have students that produce, work with, recently, Jamie said that Maggie Dever created a video for the Artist of the Month, working with the Orpheum Theater. She created that, probably took close to 20+ hours to create. So that was nice to see. That aired over at the Orpheum, but also on our channel too. So highlighting outside of the school community, the community in general. The students do also. They do sporting events. So they do a lot of production, and they're really in charge of it. So, and which is nice to see too.
Also, too, I think you had a student last year with the Harwich Cultural Center. Was that part of this also? Or was
I
that?
can't remember. I probably did.
okay. I think-
Yeah, I did. That I have so many
all right.
students
Yeah, you
going
have
all
a
over
lot
the
of
place, so it's
students.
kind of
Yes.
hard to keep
Yes.
track. But yeah, I do try to get the students out there to do
Yeah.
different video projects
Yeah.
with different organizations.
Yeah, and I just wanted to highlight that because I'm aware of some of these, and they're very good, really, really good. It's a great program, and it's getting a lot of feedback in the community for Monomoy students in particular for these types of projects, so.
That's great.
It's wonderful.
Actually, another thing to highlight, over the summer, Cape Cod Baseball League, I had one student who just graduated. He was actually running the production for Lower Cape TV, so he was actually directing in their production band. Another student who's back there, Matt Lucy, actually interned with the Harwich Mariners, doing the camera work there. So the experiences they get here corresponds to what they can do in the real world. So
Fabulous.
Excellent.
Yeah. Comments, questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, moving to the next item of business, summer use of school buses.
One of the things that Stephen mentioned to me as well is he's had students that have gone on to college and they're able to not have to take a class because of the experience they've had here. so they can step into a more advanced class, which is why it's imperative to keep the equipment current and, pertinent. We've had some interesting inquiries about whether we would be willing to allow our buses to be contracted during the summer by, whether it's through the community centers or Park and Rec, contracting with Cape Cod Collaborative, but using our buses when they're not being used by the district. So I wanted to bring this to you. I talked with Paul Funk, who is the business manager in Mashpee, and this is a relationship that they have, and their local, the Mashpee Park and Rec uses the Mashpee Public Schools school buses when they're not being used, and they get a credit from, from the collaborative at the beginning of the next billing cycle. I also spoke with Paul Hilton, who's the executive director of Cape Cod Collaborative, and we can only they can only use the buses for municipalities, and they could never, an individual could never contract with them. If I was having a gathering and needed to transport, it has to be only for municipalities like a Council on Aging, Park and Rec, Community Center. And one of the groups that did reach out to us was the Mariners, seeing if we could transport, but we would not be able to because they are not a municipality. So I wanted to see if you would entertain that notion. There is a little bit of wear and tear on the buses, but for the most part, they're just gonna be sitting here all summer, and it would be an opportunity to get a little bit of revenue for the district. So I don't think we need a vote tonight, but we certainly, we could discuss at the next meeting if you wanted us to pursue this with the other community departments. Paul said once it got going, Elver and Mashpee, it just, because it was a savings for the community center's budget, the Park and Rec, they were able to offer more trips for the kids because the cost of transportation wasn't quite as much as it had been in the past. So, something to ponder.
Yes. Any questions, Joaquin?
A quick question, Katie. Did that sound odd? Yeah. It gets fast up to here, then slow.
I hear you.
Of our 4 schools, do we have a summer school that we would need for a bus or two, or are all the summer school kids required to get here and get home on their own? The thought just strikes me.
A little bit of both, but we do offer preschool special education programs all during the summer. We provide transportation. Right. But we also have 14 buses that, that we run all school year, that we definitely don't need 14 for the programs in the summer.
Sounds like a good idea.
Right.
We wouldn't be driving. It would still be the contract, everything would be their drivers and everything, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the drivers to have additional income in the summer as well.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, so we're gonna bring this back to the next meeting.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
That's great.
Thank you very much. Moving into subcommittee reports, the first one is a second reading of the superintendent goals for 2019-2020.
So we met last Tuesday and discussed a time frame which I will give after I read the goals. So I will just simply reread the goals. Professional practice goal number 1, expand community outreach by holding 3 conversations with the superintendent meetings over the course of the academic year. Professional practice goal number 2, support the professional growth of Monomoy's primary evaluators through learning walks, informal observation. Student learning goal number 1, formally institute data conversations with the principal and superintendent as part of the principal's evaluation process. District improvement goal number 1, move the strategic plan forward through monthly school committee presentations. And district improvement goal number 2, continue to support district families by collaborating with community partners to expand early childhood options. And so we vote on those tonight?
We can, and anyone want to put forth a motion to accept?
I will move to approve the school district superintendent goals for 2019-2020.
I would second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it will pass unanimously.
And if there's no opposition to the timelines, we've tentatively put in a formative mid-cycle assessment on March 26th, individual evaluation due May 28th, and vote on evaluation June 11th.
Okay.
I have those written here if you need them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joanne. All right, now we're going to move to the second item under subcommittee reports, which would be the second reading EB safety program, and that is in our packets. And this was something we read last week, so this is a second reading. May I have a motion to accept?
I make a motion that we accept safety program policy.
A second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that one will pass. And now we have a second reading of the GBEA, Staff Ethics and Conflict of Interest. Again, this is a second reading. May I have a motion to accept this one?
I make a motion that we accept staff ethics conflict of interest policy.
Second.
All right. A motion to accept and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and we're going to move to the next one, which is the second reading of the GBEB, Staff Conduct. May I have a motion to accept? Again, this is a second reading.
And I make a motion that we accept staff conduct policy, please.
Second.
Okay, motion to accept and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, and the next one is the second reading of, let's see, this one is, I think my packet's out of order here. Let's see. The second one, second reading GBEB, I'm sorry, that was the one we just did. GBEI, Staff Participation in Political Activities. May I have a motion to accept this one?
I make a motion that we accept tobacco use on school premises by staff members.
Nope.
In a second?
Wait.
This one
Oh.
is
No.
staff participation in.
I'm out of
political-
order, okay. Here we go.
Yeah, they're a little bit out of order, I think, in
Yeah.
the packet, yeah.
I make a motion that we accept staff participation in political activities.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that one will pass. The next one is the second reading of GBED, tobacco use on school premises by staff members. May I have a motion to accept this one?
I make a motion that we accept tobacco use on school premises by staff members policy.
And a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and that one passes. And the last one is the second reading, JRA Student Records. May I have a motion to accept this one?
I make a motion that we accept student records policy.
Second.
All right, motion to accept and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and that one passes. All right, I think we've got through every one of them. Wonderful. All right, superintendent's report. Superintendent Carpenter.
So I can share with you a summary of the conversations that happened at Monday night's first conversation with the superintendent. It was a little bit surreal in terms of the approach that we actually had discussed during my setting the goals, is to send out an invitation to our community for topics that they would like discussed, and we had 9 individuals responded to the Google form that we had with topics to be discussed, and we had 8 individuals outside of the administration come to, and school committee come to the Monday night's forum. And I think by the time I got to the 3rd topic, and I started each one, did anyone submit this topic? And, hearing none. And by the time I got to the 3rd one, I finally just said, has anyone here went and sent in any of these topics? And the answer was no, or maybe they didn't want to admit it. But I hope that some of the people came because some of the topics that were submitted were ones, and I know that I think there were ones that piqued some interest. So we did have a nice conversation. I greatly appreciate that Ms. Jordan took notes, even though it was her 39th birthday. So some people really know how to celebrate.
That was your best birthday ever, wasn't it?
So it was a good conversation. We had as the topics, we discussed the status of both playgrounds. I know that Harwich Elementary School's playground has gotten a lot of play in the media and everything. The quite other playground that actually is offline is Chatham Elementary's playground, and I just explained to folks that I think there are 2nd graders that are burning the superintendent in effigy in both of our schools. Chatham Elementary, the playground, there was a playground replacement project that was funded by Chatham CPC, and all of the equipment's in place. The challenge has been, if you haven't noticed, it's been very rainy this fall. So they need a 48-hour period of time where it's neither raining nor dipping below 45 degrees. And now we're reaching this point that the weather, the temperature's not helping, and on the days when it may actually stay above 45, the rain's not helping. So all of the play structures are there. There's hard pack below the play structures waiting for that poured rubber. We had a brief conversation about the YMCA after school care at Harwich Elementary School, and there were a couple of parents that had some suggestions on how we could make the program a little more accessible for them, particularly these are families that, in both cases, families of first responders who have schedules that are sort of shift and not sort of like a consistent every Monday type of schedule. We had a conversation on the social emotional learning curriculum and conversation about calmer choice and what we do for our curriculum. There was a conversation about a sort of a pilot project that's happening at Chatham Elementary regarding platooning, which is having the children shift between classrooms where one teacher's delivering the math and science part of the curriculum and another teacher's more on the English and history, rather than having one teacher sort of provide all of those topics within their room. We had a conversation on field trips, and one of the things that I was stressed is 2 of the really essential components for field trips, be it a class trip to Washington D.C. or Emily Jutris's trip that she brought to us tonight, to go to see the Christmas Carol and do a budgeting exercise at the mall. It's do you have a faculty member who's really the champion of that and is organizing it, or for big trips, do you have faculty members so that you have the appropriate chaperones? And 2, what's the curriculum connection there? And so just briefly talked about that. There was a conversation about cell phones and alternative communication devices. One person that had emailed in wanting to sort of have the conversation was introducing me to sort of a different type of communication device that operates on the cell phone network that's almost like a walkie-talkie between, parent and student, where the student has a screenless phone that's direct connect to mom or dad, and the parent has an option through an app on their cell phone to direct connect to their child's sending unit. And then we briefly talked about vaping and just what the district has been doing in response to a vaping crisis, also emphasizing that it's no more of a crisis here than elsewhere, but it's definitely something that that we need to take into consideration, even though the state has banned the sale of vaping products. It's not something that's going to go away anytime soon, and just because Massachusetts has banned things doesn't mean that an hour away you can cross the state line and buy the things that are contraband here. And then last, just talked about JOSM, which I think is a great opportunity for students to get individualized support here at the high school and some enrichment, but also had a discussion about some challenges that JOSM has as we explore using it and how to better use it. So those were the conversations we have. I'll just stop there and breathe for a second, and if anyone has any questions.
Questions, comments?
I have a comment. I happen to be able to attend, as did half our crew. And and this goes back a generation, and probably you can go home saying, well, no news. Here's good news. And the idea that we were able to lure 8 folks, and thank you, Charles, on a sort of drizzly, rainy, cold evening, it's a good start. And I don't, in our roles, I think it's great to be there, and I think you get some info, but at the same time, it kind of enhances the overused term of being transparent. And I think that short of fabricating a false crisis, you have a sense that maybe that's kind of what you need to get 20, 30, or 40 folks out. And there was a brief conversation with a couple of moms who were referred to with kids around the YMCA program. And being sort of a senior age sitting there, not having to experience that as a younger guy, I appreciated it. And it probably reinforced the fact that 6 o'clock at night, on any given night during the year, unless you are totally invested in a topic that really is sort of burning or passionate, I can understand people's lives, not just for these 3 hopeful meetings, but every evening of the week, people are so booked with kid activities and themselves catching the breath. That's another rationale to say, hey, we can understand that. However, 8 in the winter, maybe with budget, maybe there will be 16 folks. So I still think, just like Charles's suggestion, having an agenda the second time around at the end of each evening meeting won't do any of us any harm, so that's a good thing too. That's my comment.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Having attended as well, I felt like it was very positive. I learned a lot, number one, along with you, Terry. You were the one who learned about the YMCA, but I learned about the scheduling that people go through to try and make sure their children are safe and taken care of. So that was, but I thought it was just a very positive conversation, and I think well worth the time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Before our next one, I will be putting out a memo to parents that, we will be instituting like mandatory school uniforms or something like that. Because I think when we had the great turnout last year, it was also running concurrent to, is it going to be Spanish or science at the elementary school? And there were some very strong voices on either side. And the lack of JOSM at the time with it coming back. So I think there was some excitement. So I agree with Terry. I think on some level, no news is good news. It means that people are happy. And I'm just kidding on the mandatory uniforms, but it's one of those that you'd hope that you can get more people there. The only other thing I have, I need to get something back to the Chatham Selectmen, and when it comes to universal pre-K, I have been, working with the town and other, sort of community partners on how can you go about this, because I think I've mentioned before to some the legal advice, and I have just a letter in your packet that we have received from our attorney, is the school district itself can't go and run a preschool for 4-year-olds in Chatham if we're not doing something similar in Harwich, or if we run it at Chatham, we'd have to have it be open to the children from Harwich. And and again, I don't think that was the intention of the folks in Chatham to be paying for a universal preschool just in their building. So so I'll be sort of sharing this along with the strategy for the Chatham Selectmen, that I do think we can have a universal pre-K happen, but it would need to be happening through a community partner, much the same way that you have at Harwich Elementary School right now, the YMCA running a preschool program. The town of Chatham could contract with the Y, or could contract with any other entity that's interested in running a program for 4-year-olds.
Yes, Nancy.
It could be in our buildings, though.
It could be in our building, so it would, so we would just use the available space that's in the building to have that happen.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, we will move to the next item on our agenda, which is the declaration of surplus. Who wants to take a stab? It looks like a small one this time.
Well, I'll do this one.
All right, thank you.
It's nice and short. I will declare surplus from Monomoy Regional High School, 150 Chromebooks, 5 student laptops, M&A Tech, 5 student laptops that are HP, and 3 HP printers.
Wonderful. May I have a second?
I would second it.
All right.
Third.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, and the presentation of warrants are making their way around, so they're being signed this evening. And now we move into our second public comment. Would anyone from the public like to make a comment? Yes?
Charles Gruska, 6 T-Berry Ave, Harwich. Just a quick comment of encouragement to the committee on the conversations with the superintendent, or committee listening sessions or whatever. I think it was a successful program because it was held, and the opportunity was provided to those of us in the community who wanted to come out, and those in the parent community. And I don't think the success of the program is how many people turn out. I think the success is doing it, because it delivers that powerful message that we do want to listen, we do want to take input, we do want to discuss, we do want to dialogue. So keep that in mind. And 8-2-72, the success is in holding it and providing the opportunity to the community. And I, for one, in the community, appreciate that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, so now it has come to the end of our agenda for this evening. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, meeting has been adjourned at 7:24. Thank you all.